Hey guys, it's Mike. Welcome back to the shop. It's a new year and I got some adjustment to do on my machines. I've got a couple orders backed up, but there's a little bit too much slop in the cross slide on the lathe. It's not really sloppy, it's just loose. Um, it slides too easily. I took the play out of the lead screw on the handle, but the gibs need to be adjusted. To do that on my machine now, I have to pull the DRO head off. So that's what this video is going to be. Just going to be a real quick adjustment. I'm going to show the disassembly. I'm gonna modify the mount for the DRO because right now the way it's set up, I don't have access to the table lock. And when I'm using the milling head, which I did not that long ago, I really like being able to lock the table in position. And without that hole, when I made the mount, I meant to do it. I cut part of the mount out, and my intention was to put the mount together, mark where it needed to be cut, and then take it off and cut it. And I got a little too excited when I was building it and putting it all together that I put it together, and then I wanted to test fit everything, and then I wanted to hook everything up, and I wanted to get my DRO set up and start using it. And I got a little ahead of myself. So we're gonna pull off the DRO reed heads and everything. We're going to adjust all the gibs. I'm going to replace the gib screws that they have, if I can, with Allen head screws. I'm not a big fan of using a flathead wrench or a flathead screwdriver. I prefer using an Allen wrench. That way I can hold it steady when I tighten the nut back down, and I know it's not going to move. It's just a preference thing. It really doesn't do or not do anything differently. It's just a preference. I prefer to have the Allen wrench in there instead of a screwdriver. So let me flip the camera around and we'll get started. Alright, so excuse the mess on the floor. It's winter time, and every time the garage door opens and closes, like 5,000 leaves get blown into my garage. So I'm going to start by pulling off the cover here to expose the scale and the reed head. I'm going to put the screws back in here so that I don't lose them. Set the cover off to the side. Alright, first thing I need to pull off is the actual reed head, but I need to mark on the inside where I need to machine out the pocket for the lock, because the lock's right in here somewhere. So I'm going to just pull these out down here. I think those are 5 mil. Yep, 5 millimeter. My spacer falls and makes all kinds of noise. So, well, the cover's doing a fairly good job of keeping everything off the scales. There's a little bit in there on the ends, but not too bad. And it doesn't look like I'll have to take the scale itself off. I have access here to get into these gib screws, which I'll adjust the camera angle so you can see better. But I need to figure out exactly where the table lock is at in relation to the L-shaped bracket that I made, and then I'll have to put a hole in the aluminum bracket that bolts to the bracket that I made. So I'm going to run to the hardware store real quick and get new screws and get it all set up and ready to go. Alright, so I couldn't reach down in there with a normal size wrench, so I got this old garbage wrench and just ground it out so it'll fit in there. All right. Well, that's really tight. Now, the way that I adjust the gibs, I loosen everything up, and then I start with the middle, and I have the table centered here, and I'm moving the table back and forth as I'm tightening down until I feel tension. When I get the tension where I want it, I'll hold it and tighten this down, and then I'll jump to the outside screws and do the same thing, and then I'll jump to the other two inside screws and do the same thing. So that's locked where the table won't move. And then I'll go just about a quarter of a turn. That's a little bit too loose still. Okay, right there, I'm where I want to be with my tension. So that one's good. We'll start on this one down here, back the nut off so I know I'm not hitting. Okay, so that's locked there. Go. Okay, that one's good. Jump to the outside over here. And then every time I lock them, I come back and I double check to make sure that I can still move the table. Forgot to back the nut off on this one. I can't even feel that adjusting it at all. torque it all the way down, I don't feel even the slightest bit of pressure change. There we go. I guess that one was way out of tolerance because it was barely. I had to go almost a full rotation. Before I felt any change on the handle here. Alright, and that's good. Hopefully that'll take all the little bit of chatter I was experiencing on heavier cuts out. So next, we need to measure how far over this hole here is when this is mounted back up here. Because this mounts in like that, there's a little spacer that goes underneath. And I think I could just go like this. I'll get that marked. Alright, I'm going to move the camera so you guys get a better view of what I'm actually doing here, and I'll bring you back. Alright, this notched out area right here, I did this when I was making this section, and then I got a little too excited and mounted everything. So this one has adjustment screws that go down. Try to flip it over so you guys can see it. There's 4 adjustment screws to adjust and angle this so it sits flush against the scale. This area here, this notch on the bracket is good. I might need to bore it out a little bit deeper to make sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Sharpie, since I machined the back of this in here, I'll be able to get in here with a Sharpie and kind of trace that spot out. It's not like this has to be extremely accurate or anything, it just needs to be clear enough so that I can throw it up in the mill and bore a hole through there. So now we take off these, let's see what size that is, 5mm. Looks like I'm going to have to put the bracket all the way back on. Okay, so the bracket, see See if I can do this without getting anybody seasick here. So the bracket's a little bit too tall, that cutout there. So I'm going to have to notch down a little bit further. Left and right it's fine. It just needs to be a little bit deeper. And then this bracket, now you can see where I marked it out. I know I can drill just a little bit below that. Just drill a hole straight through it, and then I'll have access to my table lock. So I'm going to disassemble this again off camera, get it mounted up in the milling machine, and we'll mill that out a little bit deeper. Alright, I'm going to try this and see if it works. I've got a 1/2 inch roughing end mill that I just got, and I finally got my mist coolant set up. So I'm going to attempt to use the mist coolant with the roughing end mill. I have the camera far back, a little bit further back than I normally do, and the lighting always sucks over here for some reason. I don't know why. I just cannot get good lighting in this area of my garage. So let's see if we can get this going here. Oops. Alright, that's 150 thousandths deeper. And it only looked like it needed maybe 60 thousandths to finish up. So I'm going to swing it back over to the lathe and fit it up again and see if it works or not. Alright, I've got the actual mounting bracket here set up, and all I'm going to do is just eyeball this hole. I've got a number 5 centering drill in there, and I'm going to just kind of eyeball up and down and left and right, touch it off, and then I've got a 7/16 drill bit set up over here. I'm just going to punch a hole through it. So I've got to come up a little bit here. That's the bottom of the travel. Left and right looks about good right there. Now I'm looking at it from this side. Pull that out of there. This bottom edge, I cut it down about 150 thousandths more. So I'm just going to go a little bit more over about there. And that should be plenty of room. Get my WD here. Drop the table down to get that drill bit in, I think. tuck my quill so it doesn't slide down. One of these days I'm going to make a handle for the quill lock so I don't have to keep grabbing the wrench every 5 seconds. It's mildly annoying. Do a quick deburr here. And we've got our pass-through hole, which should be fine. Alright, I've got it mounted back up, and now I can reach in here and access the table lock. And I got my calibration little plastic piece here, and it slides through perfectly. I got it leveled, and I just double checked on the readout head, and everything is looking like it's still tracking. So that's done, our gibs are adjusted, and this project is finished.